ESPN 1045, Matt Moscona. After further review, we are watching this video, reacting to it, all the fun stuff. This video popped up on my timeline, and I couldn't believe the title. Why Saints should reunite with quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Holy God. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I have obviously not watched the video. I'm going to watch it with all of you, so let's go ahead and see what this is all about.
How would you feel if the Saints brought back Teddy Bridgewater?
I'd feel terrible. I feel like shit. I don't know why they would do that. If they went into next year with Teddy Bridgewater, I honestly may boycott the season. I've had enough. I've had enough of this. We've had 2 seasons now with just misfit toys, all right? We got to get off the island of misfit toys. If we end up with Teddy Bridgewater, I'll be the first one down there, down on Canal Street, saying, fire Mickey Loomis. If they put us through this shit again, if they put us through this and say, all right, Saints fans, I know last year wasn't awesome. I know Dalton and Winston didn't work out. I know the Trevor Siemian thing wasn't very cool either. Ian Book ain't going to be it. But good news, guys. If you thought last year was bad, wait until you get a load of Teddy Bridgewater.
I bring this up because Bill Barnwell over at ESPN.com has a feature up right now, and it's essentially every quarterback needy team in the NFL.
Okay.
And what their situation is like, basically.
Yeah, ours is bad. That's ours. Bad. Terrible. No good.
So right now, this is what the Saints are looking at. Of course, Andy Dalton's the starter. They just beat Atlanta. And Dalton had a nice day. 11 of 17 for 151 and 2 scores. Didn't set the world on fire, but a nice day. Dalton is a free agent after this season.
Dalton is gone. Winston is gone. These are not long-term things. You could bring Dalton back, I guess, if he wants to just chill. You can bring him back to be the backup, but you got to go get a quarterback. This fan base would lose their mind if after this, if you said, we're bringing in Teddy Bridgewater. You might as well just bring in Sam Darnold. You might as well bring in Baker Mayfield. Like, these guys, I can't even fathom. What would happen if they brought back Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, and Teddy Bridgewater. I'm telling you this right now. If that happens, I'm boycotting the season. If that happens, I will not watch a game next year. I will not go to a game. I will not wear Saints merchandise. I'll just straight up not watch. If that's what they do, sell the team. I'd rather them sell the team than bring in Teddy Bridgewater, Dennis Allen, and Pete Carmichael.
And the Saints are most certainly going to cut Jameis Winston. Can we all agree on that? They've made it to this point in the season. Jameis has not regained his starting job. They would owe him some $15 million next year. They're going to cut him, and he'd be owed $12.8 million next season. By cutting him, they'll save about $4.5 million against the cap. So I think we can all agree they're going to cut Jameis Winston, right? If they had any intention
they are cutting him,
of retaining him and seeing what they thought might be there, they would be playing him right now.
Yeah.
They're not going to. I think we're all there.
I'm there.
So if you're going to cut Jameis,
okay,
Dalton's a free agent.
Could bring him back.
Taysom Hill is still under contract.
He's not a quarterback.
Taysom Hill as a franchise quarterback ship also has sailed.
Never even got out of the harbor.
So now you look at, okay, you don't have a top draft pick.
Yep.
So you're not, you trade it away. Otherwise, you'd be picking likely in the top 5, top 10 somewhere, and you'd have an opportunity to get one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. You're not going to have that option this year.
I hear you.
So you start to look at the class of free agents.
Lamar.
There's Tom Brady.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold.
I've already said two of these guys would make me want to jump off the roof. Why are we listing these guys? And let me tell you this in case you missed my other videos. Tom Brady will be a Saint next year. Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints next year. One of those two. So the fact that I think that's what's going to happen with Sean Payton coming back, and we're talking about possibly Teddy Bridgewater, is making me ill.
Jimmy Garoppolo,
Okay.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, hold up.
I mean, look, follow the list with me, Paul. If you want to pull this up, you can. I mean, here's
Pull
the
it up,
list
Paulie.
of
Pull
free
it up.
agents.
Pull up the
I mean,
list.
this is your list of free agent quarterbacks.
Okay,
So you're the Saints.
Just blinded me.
And you're picking.
God bless. Okay. Teddy Bridgewater, 30 years old. My God. Daniel Jones, get him out of my face. Case Keenum, get out of these players. What are we doing? None of these players are even starters. Like Tom Brady, okay. Mayfield, not a starter. Darnold, not a starter. Jimmy Garoppolo, okay. Teddy Bridgewater, not a starter. Daniel Jones, not a starter. Case Keenum, not a starter. I know they're starting right now, but I'm saying, like, I don't view them as starters. Brady, yes. Garoppolo, I could hear a maybe, but that'd be a big time maybe.
A free agent: Brady, Baker, Darnold, Jimmy G, Teddy B, Daniel.
If you do get Jimmy, it is strictly because you're ready to draft a quarterback the following year, because you don't have a first round pick, all that stuff. If you're saying we're going to get Jimmy now, see if Jimmy can just kind of guide us to a 10-11 win season, be competitive, be in the playoffs, and then we're going to draft a quarterback, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that mindset. But I'm not okay with Teddy Bridgewater or Daniel Jones or Case Keenum or Baker Mayfield.
Daniel Jones, who it seems like will probably be back in New York now. Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, Geno Smith, Joe Flacco, the aforementioned Andy Dalton, Mike White with the Jets.
Lamar. Now, Lamar's interesting because I've listed 3 people that I think could be the Saints quarterback next year. Lamar, Brady, Rodgers. Lamar is the one that's interesting because you're going to have to give him $250 million. And we don't have a coach that's going to do that. Like, you don't do that and then say, all right, Dennis Allen, good luck having Lamar. You have to have a really creative offensive guy. So we would have to get Lamar, think about what would have to happen. We'd have to fire Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael, thank the gods. We'd have to go hire an offensive mind. I have said just get Greg Nolan and bring him in with, or Greg Roman. I think I always call him Greg Nolan, but it's Greg Roman. Greg Roman, now I'm confusing myself. Bring both of them in. That's a tall task. But you have to get an offensive guy to get Lamar, and then you got to pay Lamar $250 million. So that's a lot of work. Now, I think Sean Payton would come to coach Lamar. So I think you could do the whole Sean Payton's coming back. We're giving Lamar whatever, 10 years, $250 million. I could see something like that.
At C.J. Beathard, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, Lamar Jackson, Blaine Gabbert. That's the name I was trying to remember last week, the long-haired quarterback from Missouri. Chase Daniel, Chad Henne, Nick Mullins, Drew Lock, Brandon Allen, Josh Johnson, Nate Sudfeld, Nathan Peterman.
These players are ass.
Cooper Rush. Make it happen. Brett Rippon, Tyler Huntley, John Wolford, Philip Walker, Trace McSorley.
We are at the Easton Stick portion of this list. Get it off my screen.
Jared Stidham, Bryce Perkins, Easton Stick, Garner Minshew, and Shane Buechele. That's your crop of free agent quarterbacks for this season. Okay. Pipe dream, maybe Baltimore decides to let a former MVP walk and you sign Lamar Jackson and you make the money work.
I think that's a real possibility in Baltimore. I don't feel like Baltimore is the kind of team that would pay $200+ million for a quarterback. I could certainly see Lamar walking.
Work however you structure it in a long-term deal, whatever. Some may say, well, what about Jimmy G? Jimmy Garoppolo and Teddy Bridgewater are the same player. Do you realize this?
Nah, I mean, they're not. How many Super Bowls has Teddy Bridgewater been to? How many conference championship games has Teddy Bridgewater been to? How many playoff games has Teddy Bridgewater won? That's what I want to hear.
If you're like, I did this exercise today and looked at them side by side. They're the same guy. Jimmy G has played in 74 games. Teddy Bridgewater has played in 77 games.
Okay.
Jimmy Garoppolo has thrown for 14,000 yards. Teddy Bridgewater has thrown for 14,900 yards.
Okay.
Jimmy G, 87 touchdowns. Teddy, 74. Jimmy G, 42 picks. Teddy, 46. They are the same freaking guy. They're the same guy.
Man, Could you imagine if that's all you did, like all you looked at, that was all the analytics you do? Because I mean, like I know the way that I break down players and teams and all that stuff and box scores, and we've done it live on the video. Could you imagine being like yards, touchdowns, picks? That's the quarterbacks. That's it. Like there's obviously so much more to how it goes. I need to see things like their completion percentage. I need to see things like their record. I need to see all kind of stuff. Playoff wins, come from behind wins, game-winning drives, so much. Average time of holding the ball, what kind of offenses they're in, what weathers they play in. Like there's so much more to all of that than to grade a quarterback than yards, touchdowns, and interceptions.
Yes, Garoppolo has had more team success in San Francisco. He's also played for a really good team with great defenses, well coached, good skill around him, all that sort of stuff. So situation matters.
Absolutely.
It's the same guy. So if you're the...
Also, here's something else that matters too. It's like, how many of those games are you the starter? How many of those games are you starting because the starter got hurt and you're now the starter? Like how many? Like that's a different kind of pressure. If Bridgewater's coming on in relief versus, hey man, you're the guy. Those are two different scenarios. Those are two different things. Like all those situations have to be factored in. Are you down? That's why I said record. Are you getting these yards and touchdowns and all that stuff in garbage time, or are you getting them in the playoffs? Are you getting them when it matters? How many? What's your stats look like in close score games? What do they look like in blowouts? All that has to. We're so far beyond the yards, touchdowns, QBR. We're so far beyond that, and this is sad.
The Saints, you're looking at this offseason like, okay, I still maintain that you've got to draft a quarterback. And I'm guessing you probably agree with me on that. And I know the majority of Saints fans, we have these conversations. It's, hey, do you think Hendon Hooker would be available at the top of round 2? I think so, and I hope so. If you're like,
if you do get Bridgewater, I'll say this. If you draft Hendon Hooker and you say, all right, look, Hooker's the future. He's hurt. He tore his ACL. We're going to give him a full year to recover, and then we're going to start the Hendon Hooker era. Let's just go get a veteran quarterback to kind of show Hooker the ropes, and let's just do that on a cheap and not worry about it. Then, if you do that, I'm okay with bringing in a Bridgewater. I'm okay with bringing in someone like that, if that is the plan. And if you do that, you better meet me in the middle and get rid of Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. But if that's the whole plan, okay. I could live with that. That's kind of the Mariota, Ritter angle. Okay. But if you just bring in Bridgewater and say, all right, let's go. Let's see where Bridgewater takes us. If that's the plan, I'm all out on that. But I'm okay with this, like, take a guy like Hooker, make him obviously the man moving forward. He's your franchise quarterback. And then Bridgewater could be a guy that gets in there. But man, you better do all of that. Like, you better do the draft pick, the firing of Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael, the hiring of a guy, the signing of a veteran quarterback. Like, all that has to happen. If one of those things doesn't happen, it's a complete disaster.
Hendon Hooker fan. I like the fact that he came back to school. I like that he's mature. I love the touch and accuracy he has on the deep ball. I think he was the best player in college football this year. And should have won the Heisman Trophy. But voters are cowards, and they basically abide by these stupid unwritten rules where it's like, if you get hurt and don't play the last game, then you're out, which is stupid. But
could you imagine, if someone gets hurt and they miss like 3 games? Like, imagine how good they'd have to be to win the Heisman. Like, that's a crazy. That's wild to me. I mean, that's wild to me. It really is. I've heard a lot of people talking about that, how Hooker should have won the Heisman. And I've heard a lot of people saying Jalen Hurts should win the MVP this year, no matter what. Like, no matter if he plays another game or not. And I think that's bananas. Like, could you imagine if Carson Wentz, when he got hurt, he was the MVP favorite? If when he got hurt, they were like, all right, man, You're the MVP, even though you played 8 games. You were really, really good in those 8 games. And then it's like, oh, well, that's half a season. That's different. Is it? Is it? Does it matter when you get hurt? Or does it matter if you're just the best player in the game when you do get hurt?
But that's how it is. In any event, if Hendon Hooker's there at the top of round 2 whenever the Saints pick and they take him, I'd be over the moon. I also don't want to go into next season with only Hendon Hooker or whomever you draft as your option at quarterback.
Yeah, you give him, but look, like the Bridgewater thing, okay? So I've said all this stuff about Hendon Hooker and Bridgewater. You could do that same thing with Andy Dalton. You could do the exact same thing, just bring Dalton back, draft Hooker. Like, it's Bridgewater and Dalton, to me, are the exact same player. And if the grand scheme of things is to turn it over to Hooker the following year, or maybe even later next year once he's fully healthy, just bring Dalton back. Don't even worry about the Bridgewater thing. Just bring Dalton back. Bridgewater is not, he's no better than Dalton.
You'd love to have the opportunity to have that guy compete with a veteran. And if the rookie wins it, awesome. And if not, you've got a veteran who's played a lot of football, and you can bring the rookie along slowly. Essentially what Atlanta did this year. Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder.
2 minutes ago.
That's the example. Like, that's the analogy. Veteran who's been around, started before, won some games, lost some games, never going to be a franchise quarterback again. Young guy who you're hoping develops and you hit the way Seattle hit on Russ in round 3, Kirk Cousins in round 4, Dak in round 4. You know the list by now.
Yeah, good.
That's the hope. Jalen Hurts in round 2.
Yep, I could be there for sure.
So the Saints are going to have to bring in a veteran to go along with whoever the rookie is that they bring in this year, that they draft, because I'm assuming they will. Do you want Andy Dalton back?
Here's the hiccup with this plan. So the hiccup with this plan is you've got Kamara, you've got Michael Thomas, you've got Marshawn Lattimore, you got Cam Jordan, you got these players who, are they willing to basically punt another season? Are they willing to basically say, like, all right, give me one more. Give us one more season, and then we're going to try and win? Or do those players just, is Cam Jordan around in 2 seasons? He's been there a long time. Is Alvin Kamara around? In 2 more years or 1 more year going into another year of being a running back in the NFL? Is Michael Thomas around? Like, who's there? Then what's the team look like? Is it a full rebuild once Hooker is available? It's always about the windows opening and closing on how good you are. Our Super Bowl window closed when Breeze left. I don't think our playoff window, NFC Championship window, I don't think that's totally shut with the right quarterback. It's shut right now. But we have a good roster. So another year of holding that roster back while you develop this quarterback, because the ceiling on a Teddy Bridgewater or an Andy Dalton or a veteran, you can't do both. You can't keep the window open while bridging to that next era. So that's my only issue with this plan. And that's why if it was up to me, I would be pushing much more for a Sean Payton, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers kind of reunion, or, to come together and just say, you know what, we're going all in. And then if you do that, here's the beauty in it. If you do that, you can draft Hendon Hooker, right? You can still draft your guy. You can still draft the future, especially someone like Hooker, who you can just say, look, he ain't playing this year. He had a catastrophic knee injury. We are giving him the full year to develop. But you can still take him in the second round while getting a Tom Brady. And he doesn't even have to wear pads. He can just hold a clipboard, go through everything, learn the season, and you can have whoever, Andy Dalton, be the backup to Tom Brady. So I think that's a better way of attacking this, a better way of doing this. Now, granted, I'm asking for a lot. I'm asking for Sean Payton to come back, Tom Brady to come back, draft Hendon Hooker or whatever. But that, to me, that's basically the same thing as fire Allen Carmichael, hire offensive guys, draft Hooker, get Bridgewater or Dalton. They're both kind of the same. I think one just keeps the next season more alive. The next season or two seasons, however you want to do it. It keeps that much more alive versus this, which basically you're telling the fan base, look, give me another year where we're kind of capped at how good we can be.
I mean, you could look at Andy and say, well, at least he's got experience in this organization, in this system with these coaches. And maybe that's the answer.
That's got to change, because you can't do that either. You can't draft Hooker, bring back Carmichael and Allen, and say, okay, now you develop this quarterback, because then you're tied to those two idiots. You're tied to those two guys to develop the quarterback so that he can have success. These two guys can't do nothing. They can't develop anything. We're not going to be successful with Carmichael and Allen. So you got to get two new guys and then bring their culture and their philosophy, their playbook, all that stuff. So the Dalton, like, keeping him around because of the system has to change in order for the Hooker or whoever we draft, whoever the player is, in order for them to be successful, the system has to change. The system has got us into this problem that we're in right now.
That they'll arrive at. It most certainly isn't going to be Jameis. I think we know that by now.
Yeah.
They're going to cut him, they're going to save the money, and they'll move on. But the question is, would you rather 35 going to 36-year-old Andy Dalton or 30-year-old Teddy Bridgewater, who was such a...
The age is irrelevant, man. Like, the age is irrelevant if all he's doing is bridging to Hendon Hooker next year. You're not worried about him being 31 or 35 because all you're worried about is 10 months. You're worried about, one season. You're worried about, hey, man, get me one season, be a leader, be a locker room guy, and drag this quarterback along. Develop this quarterback. You're not concerned about him being what he's going to look like next, the year after that. You're not concerned about his age. You're not concerned about any of that. You're getting him for this like leadership position, this veteran position. The actual age, contract, all that stuff doesn't matter.
Core part of the Saints in 2018 and then 2019 when Breeze got hurt was beloved, the whole bike life dance, personality notwithstanding, which is fantastic. I mean, he's such a likable guy and has been his whole career. As a quarterback, he's probably a better option in that he is younger than Andy Dalton, but will deliver essentially the same thing.
Yeah,
so maybe it's just sort of a mixed bag, a hodgepodge of the same style of average. If you're talking about 35-year-old Andy Dalton, 30-year-old Teddy Bridgewater, 31-year-old Jimmy G, whatever it may be, like you're talking about basically the same guy, a guy that's played a lot of football, is never going to be a top 10 quarterback or franchise quarterback, but could be a good stopgap or bridge to the younger guy. And that's probably the Saints' best option, unless they decide we're going to go all in and make Lamar Jackson an offer he can't refuse to come be our franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Three options. I've already laid it out in this video. I've laid it out in every video I've done. The three options are you do this bridge rookie quarterback. Option 2, you go sell out for Lamar. And option 3, you go get a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers or someone like that. 2 of the 3 options require Sean Payton. The third option requires a new coach. So regardless of whatever 3 decisions you make, the first thing we got to do is get rid of Allen and Carmichael. And with Payton, you immediately become contenders because he ain't coming to New Orleans again if we're going to roll out Andy Dalton or Teddy Bridgewater. He's only coming if we say, all right, look, we'll make a move for Lamar. All right, look, we'll go talk to Tom Brady. We already know Tom Brady and Sean Payton almost united in Miami. So there's no reason they can't unite in New Orleans for a season. Okay? So those are the 3 options. The fourth option that I'm not even putting out here, the fourth option, the option of death, is they bring back Carmichael and Allen for another year, and they get someone like Bridgewater, or they get someone like Jimmy G, or Baker Mayfield, or Sam Darnold, or Andy Dalton, or whatever, and they say, let's give them another year, and that's it. And there's no security blanket. That would be a complete disaster. That would be because remember, we're saying, yeah, just take Hendon Hooker. What if he's not there? Then what? Is there another guy? Is there another guy that you'd be comfortable with saying, like, we're going to turn the keys over to in the second or third round? Because Grayson McCall's not going to be there. So it's easy to be like, yeah, we'll get Hooker. What if he gets snatched up? What if people are high on him, and what if he gets taken? So that's why it's dangerous to be like, we're going to go for this guy. With Brady, Rodgers, or Lamar, you have much more control over the variable of who gets who.
The Saints are have arrived at that decision. What I do know is a year ago, boy, they took a really heavy swing at Deshaun Watson. They entered into those sweepstakes. So they were on the list for Russ. Like, they have been in these conversations to land a franchise quarterback, and the only one on the list of free agents this year that would actually qualify is a guy in Lamar Jackson that's been an MVP.
I'll tell you this too. Like, the Saints are not one of those teams. Mickey Loomis, I'll give him this. He doesn't like to put a bad team out there. You know, like, this is a team that for the last almost 20 years has been competitive. For almost, that's a lot. So for a team like that to just say, let's just get out there and go, 5 wins, 6 wins. Like, the Simeon situation was out of his hands, a lot of injuries and all that stuff. The Dalton Jameis thing, I believe, was because of Sean Payton and the uncertainty of, like, is he coming back? Is he not? Whatever. I think this was just a lost season. It would be hard for me to believe that Loomis would be okay with just being bad again. So I think if Lamar does walk from Baltimore, we will obviously be in that sweepstakes, but we ain't in that sweepstakes with Dennis Allen. Okay? So I think, a lot has to happen.
But if Lamar ends up staying in Baltimore, then your options are you bring in a veteran as a bridge to whoever it is that you draft this year, likely in round 2. And if you gave me my options, I would take Teddy Bridgewater. I would take Teddy Bridgewater over Andy Dalton, over Jimmy Garoppolo, over any list, anybody on that list we just read off to you. But what's clear is the Saints' future, their franchise is not on the roster now. We all know that. And the sincere hope is you get it in the draft. And if you do, then your path back to competing is accelerated. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, for sure. But what else did the Eagles do? They got Nick Sirianni. What else did Miami do? They got Mike McDaniel. There's other parts. What did Minnesota do? They went and got Kevin O'Connell. What's the difference between this year and last year for Minnesota? Kevin O'Connell over Mike Zimmer. Like, you got to change when you have a team like that changes with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. It's because of the whole system. And what else did they do? They went and got A.J. Brown. The Eagles did a lot. They made a lot of moves. They upgraded everywhere, defensively, offensively, their picks, their quarterback, their coach, wide receivers, everything. So it isn't as easy as you find a stud in the 3rd round and that's it. You got to change it all. You got to change the whole thing. Let's take a quick look at who actually would be available at that time for the Saints. All right, so this is NFL Draft Buzz. So these are quarterbacks. So again, we're looking at like 2nd round, 3rd round, something like that. So Levis, Stroud, Young are going to be gone. You could argue McKee maybe in there somewhere, but here's what we're really looking at. We're looking at Hooker, McKee, Anderson, or Richardson, Van Dyke, Rattler. McCall is not there. He's gone back. I think DJ entered the portal, so I'm not sure he's going to be in the draft either. Jaron Hall. Like, these guys, so take Hooker out. Let's say, like I said, if we don't get Hooker, would you be as confident with saying, yeah, let's get Teddy Bridgewater, who can then be a bridge to Tyler Van Dyke, or he can then be a bridge to Anthony Richardson? Like, that's risky business. That's risky business. If you're sitting here telling me that we're gonna take a whole year to develop Tanner McKee, to develop Anthony Richardson. So Hendon Hooker kind of has that name value, but man, that plan is really reliant on getting Hendon Hooker because it drops off. It drops off big time if you're looking at these guys and saying, all right, we're gonna bridge to these young bucks. I don't know about that. But let me know in the comments below. What do you think? What should the Saints do in the offseason? Is a bridge quarterback to a rookie quarterback the move? If so, who the hell is the bridge and who the hell is the rookie? Or is the move a Tom Brady, an Aaron Rodgers, a Lamar Jackson? Let me know what you want to see in the offseason, as long as it's not Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. God, please.